Hello, my name is Ben, aka Nightingale TCG, and in the poll last week where I asked you guys which leader you would want a deck breakdown on, Green Yellow Law won. But before we get into it, I want to say thank you to Sleeve Chief for sponsoring this video. Sleeve Chief is a TCG company that I've been following for years, so it feels extra special to have them support me. If you are looking for high quality deck boxes, binders, playmats, sleeves, and much more, do me a favor and check out Sleeve Chief through my affiliate link in the description. And remember to use code Nightingale on checkout to get 5% off your order. Green Yellow Law is a leader that is just, if you play this leader, you tend to be a die-hard fan of this leader because the leader itself is so unique and interesting that I feel like people either love him or they find him too complex to even try out. I personally really liked him. I played him a lot during OP12 when he had a really strong matchup into Blue-Purple Luffy. So I have a decent amount of experience on the deck, and hopefully today I can show you how to make him work in the OP15 meta. I think if rotation hadn't been a thing, GY Law would be much more in people's conversation of a deck that could be viable and able to contest some of the current meta leaders in Enel and Blue-Yellow Nami, simply because Restand Law is just a really good card, but because rotation happened, we just now have to make do with what we have. In the video today, I'll be going over 3 different deck lists because I don't think it's as simple as just show a deck list to you guys and be like, this is 100% the best 50 cards you can put into the deck. So I want to give you different branches of ideas that you guys can pull from if you do decide to play this deck. In the gameplay portion of the video, I'll be playing this exact version of the deck that you are currently seeing on the screen, but I'll be going over the other 2 versions in a bit, and I'll also be going over my deck building process. Then after that, I'll be going over how the curve on this leader works, both going first and second. And then because in the Smoker video from last week, I've had people ask to go over a Mulligan process, I'll be trying that out in today's video as well. So what does Law Leader's ability actually do? Even when reading it just out loud now, I don't think it really explains perfectly well what all the possibilities are that you can do with this leader, but I'll go over the basics now, and then hopefully later when I go over the curve and when you see the gameplay, it becomes clearer. So if you have a Don attached, activate main once per turn. If the total cost of your characters is 5 or more, you may return one of your characters to the owner's hand. That is the cost. That means if you want to use this leader ability, you need to have an accumulated cost of 5 on your board. Whether that's just having a 5 cost in Cavendish, or whether that's having 5 1-drops, or 3 1-drops and a 2-drop, doesn't matter. As long as you have a cost of 5 on your board, you can use it. I hope that's clear. So by using its ability, you reveal the top card of your life, and if that card is a supernova type character card with a cost of 5 or less, you may play that card out of your life. Which means that something you want to do is flood your board with 1 and 2 drops. Then you play beige, stack your life with one of these 5 costs, put it underneath your leader, use leader ability, and cheat the 5 cost out from your life. I hope that's clear because it's important for the deck building process. If you saw last week's video, then you'll know that the way I like building a deck is simply going into a deck builder, looking through all the cards that I can find that I can possibly see myself including in the deck, and then from then on, I will start narrowing things down. With GY Law, there are a lot of cards you can put into the deck. These are pretty much all the ones that I have found for myself. Maybe there are even still some that are missing, but these are 29 individual cards, which is a lot, especially when you then try to fit them into a 50 card deck. With Law, similar to Smoker last week, you basically have to start with your searcher package. You will always play this 1-cost Luffy and the 2-cost Kid and Killer. That is like no questions asked. But what the third searcher is a lot less clear, especially because rotation happened and a lot of your slash search targets used to be Laws that have rotated out. Now Perona, which used to be like just clearly the better target, has become slightly worse. And depending on who you ask, people will tell you play Perona and other people will tell you to play 1-cost Bonnie. I made a build for both of them, but in my main build I'm playing Perona because I think the difference between having to play 1 Don and 2 Don for your search just matters a lot. So let's go over the build that you'll be seeing in the gameplay in today's video. As I mentioned, I'm playing the 1-cost Luffy Searcher, the Perona, and the Kid and Killer as my Searcher package. In terms of the Luffy and the Kid and Killer, we do not have to worry about them missing ever because there are 40 Supernova cards in this deck, so they will always be able to find a target. And that is also the positive, that if you play 1-cost Bonnie, you'll increase that number to a 44, and Bonnie is just, it's impossible to miss with 1-cost Bonnie then as well. For Perona, we currently have 22 targets in the deck. The Kid and Killer, the Cavendishes, this X-Drake, which is a 2k, and to be honest, you have to, by playing Perona, compromise on this being the 2k that you use. There are other slash 2ks that you can play. Like, for example, this 2k Zoro, which is a decent blocker target, the 2k Law, which you can actually play out in this deck as a trigger, and the other X-Drake, which can be used to rest a 4-cost. They all have different uses. This X-Drake is really nice because it rests a 5-cost, which is just a number higher, but then also it adds another target that you can potentially blind leader ability of, without feeling too bad if you play this card out. So that's why I like the X-Drake over the other options. I think in an ideal version, I would prefer playing this 1-cost Bonnie, simply because it covers removal protection, which is actually only relevant in the Lucy matchup. But it's also just another 1-cost target that you can use to spam your board with early game to get your leader ability online. But yeah, then the other Perona targets are these 6 laws and then, of course, the events. We talked a little bit about the 2Ks just now. I think the only other 2K that you could potentially think about playing as well is Zeus. And it has its spots. The thing is, actually taking you alive is a lot more expensive in this leader than in other leaders, because essentially taking you alive means one less opportunity to cheat a card out with your leader ability. And then the other 2k that this deck plays is the Capone Beige, and this card is non-negotiable. It's just the best 2k that you have in the deck. It's completely necessary to even make your game plan function, because it's the main way that you can set up your leader ability to cheat out a 5-cost. It's actually the only way apart from the 7-cost law as well. Moving on from the 2Ks, we go to our Supernova 5-cost package. The two best cards by a mile are this Cavendish and this Bonnie. This Cavendish, I don't think I have to explain to anyone why this Cavendish is really good. Just being able to, on play and when attacking, restand to Don as active is just nuts. It makes your lethal puzzles on this leader quite fun and interesting, because sometimes you can attach to Don on a character, then use your leader ability to bounce the character into your hand so that you can reuse 2 Don after you've restood those rested Don with your Cavendish swing. And essentially you can have 12 Don in a turn, even like without playing any cards down to cause rested Don. And then this Bonnie is really good like for multiple reasons. First off, preventing an 8-cost from resting in this current meta with like 6-cost NL and so on is just very powerful. But then also it being able to restand a Don after it is played can sometimes lead to you being able to put that Don onto your leader ability to combo further into cheating out another character. So this Bonnie is really good. I'm gonna skip over the Borsellino for now. I think everyone who plays the game right now knows why Borsellino is good. Just a 5-cost blocker that heals is nuts, but it's also even better in this leader because you can combine it with the law. And then this 5-cost Bonnie is kind of a different version of this Bonnie. Sometimes you're able to just freeze a big rested body as well. But against Purple NL, you're also sometimes able to freeze their Don, which means that they aren't able to play out a 6-cost NL unless they leader ability first, which is always very good for you, because then they aren't able to attach the rested Don from their leader ability and they're only using it to restand the Don that you kept frozen. Then this 5-cost blocker Bonnie, honestly, she's a bit underwhelming in this leader because it's quite difficult with how much Don you have to attach and how much you need to restand and bounce targets. It's difficult to actually get 8 rested targets. But she has another 5-cost to play out. She's another 5-cost that you can sometimes blind hit off leader ability, and she's another blocker, so she's never bad. This promo Bonnie, if you've never seen her, is a specific tech card for the current meta. What she allows you to do is essentially get rid of a 4-cost, but you have to put it into your opponent's life. But 4-cost is a pretty relevant stat line at the moment. If you play against a Purple NL and they still play the dog, you want to get rid of that as soon as possible, and putting it into life is still just fine. Of course, you preferably would want to KO it or something, but the color combinations of green and yellow don't really have that unless you want to play Zeus. So we'll have to live with being able to put something into life, and then the same goes against Lucy, where you can put that Cavendish into life, and then against Nell as well, you can sometimes, if their rage isn't active yet, get rid of that, or their 4-cost Frankie and so on. This is, however, like purely an early game card. You don't really want to use her in the late game to get rid of threats, because in the late game healing, your opponent is a lot more devastating. Then we already went over the X-Drake. He's a 2k. He's an emergency 5 cost to play out and an emergency way to arrest somebody's blocker. So now we'll get to the 2 laws. This 6 cost law is essentially a way to copy every card that is on your board. The main things you want to actually replay with this law are the Borsellino and this 5 cost Bonnie. If you have the Bonnie down and your opponent has a 6 cost Enel, and every turn you swing with her, you use 6 cost law, you bounce the Bonnie back and replay her, you can perma freeze an opponent's 6 cost Enel. And if you have a Borsellino down and you do the same bounce shenanigans with the 6 cost law, you have a way to re-heal a life every single turn, which is also just nuts. Then the 7 cost law, honestly, most of the time, he's a worse version of the 6 cost law, because you have to put something into your life from hand, and then you have to bounce something back and like play it out of your life, etc. And it's not a blocker, whereas the 6 cost law is. But the main reason why I like playing the 7 cost law in the deck at the moment is because of the Nami matchup, where you want some like stat lines in general that are higher than just 6Ks, because Nami is obviously a 9k all the time, so having a bigger body to swing into Nami is pretty relevant. Then I'll jump quickly over to the beige. This beige could also just be this Bonnie, it depends on what you prefer. We are currently only playing 8 2Ks in the deck, but with us being an aggro deck that kind of also just heals a lot through this Borsellino and the 7 cost law, 2Ks become slightly less relevant, and we also search so much that it's completely possible to pick up enough 2Ks throughout a game. But what this beige is there for is, first of all, it's a blocker. Second of all, it's removal protection. It's different type of removal protection. This beige, if your opponent tries to remove something, like if a Lucy attempts to bury a pistol, one of your 5 costs, you get to instead put the 5 costs in your life. If you would have had the Bonnie down, then you would have had to take a life. I personally think that taking a life is a bit too expensive on this lead at the moment. Whereas yes, with this beige, they still get to remove it by putting it into your life, but you still on the next turn get to just use lead ability and bounce it back out. So that's personally a fine trade-off for me. And then lastly, the 2 events that we play are DMG and I Know You're Strong. DMG is there to go for game. I think it is technically better to play Hody Jones as a card. Like as a card, Hody Jones is stronger. But DMG is searchable off Perona, so that's why I'm going for DMG. And then I Know You're Strong. I mean, freezing as a green deck in the current state of the game is just a good strategy. And alongside this 5 cost Bonnie, you get to sometimes freeze 3 targets, which is enough to like lock a game out for at least 1 extra turn. And the reason I'm playing this event over Luna as well is, first of all, this event has counter, but it's also a supernova event, which means that it's searchable off Kid and Killer and the 1 cost Luffy. So that's it for the deck list I'm gonna be playing during this video, but now I also want to show you 2 other ones. Decklist number 2, this is my version of how I would play this deck with a Bonnie Searcher engine. And it also plays this 3 cost Bonnie, which makes it so that you can play going second a lot simpler than with the other build. With the other build, you kind of always want to go first because you want to be able to just on 5 play Cavendish, use beige to set up your life, put it on underneath leader, use leader ability, bounce the beige, and put a 5 cost down that you just put into your life. But with this Bonnie, if you go second and you have a little bit of a high roll where you are able to play double 1 drop down on turn 1 or a 2 drop on turn 1, and then on turn 2 for 3 don you use Bonnie, you put something into your life, then you still have a don to put underneath your leader, and you get your leader ability immediately right there on your 4 don turn already, which is decently harder to accomplish in the other build, because in the other build you're forced to like play double 1 drop on turn 1 as well, and then play another 2 drop plus beige on that turn, and then you get to use leader ability too. And this way the Bonnie is also a blocker, which is pretty strong. And she's a 4k stat line, which means that like an NL has to work a little bit to get rid of her, either by minusing her first and using Althor or using Mamaragon. Then the last list I want to show you is this list by SkepasG, who's a very accomplished and known lore player. And he recently played this lore list in a Stores championship and he got 2nd place with it. So I wanted to show it off because it clearly works and it's slightly different in philosophy of mine. The main difference is that he plays Hody Jones and he plays this 8 cost lore. I personally found that even though this 8 cost law is kind of cool in the fact that on 8 Don you can play this law out, you use its ability, and then you get to heal 1, and sometimes if you combine it with the 6 cost law and then bounce something to play Borsalino, you get to heal 2 cards during 1 turn while establishing 2 blockers. So that is a really strong turn. I just think the card is too expensive for what it does. Like an 8 cost to swing a 6k is it just doesn't feel right for me. Because it's not like this card enables you to play 6 costs into 5 costs. You can still play 6 costs into Borsa, like on your own out of hand without having to have this card in the deck. All this does for 2 extra Don is that you get to swing 1 6k and to heal 1 more life at the cost of trashing a card. And maybe I'm crazy. Just when I tested it out, it just felt too expensive for me, which is why I'm not playing it. But regardless, that might just be personal preference. I mean, it's working well for other people, clearly. So I just wanted to address it during this portion of the video. Alright, let's go with the curve section of the video. Honestly, this is not a deck where you just play curve. So I'm gonna go over what the first like 3 to 4 turns look like, but after that, there's no blueprint to how to play the deck because it completely depends on what is happening in the game. First off, the way I have the deck currently built, I want to go first on the deck. There are ways to build this deck so that it's better to go second. Like the second build that I showed you with the Bonnie Searcher in it, that is definitely a type of version where going second is more preferable. But I'll go over the going first curve first, I guess. No pun intended. So on 1 Don, you just want to search, get one of your 1-drops down, search, grab one of your 5 costs or whatever, grab a 2k into your hand and go from there. Then your 3 Don turn kind of looks the same. You want to just search as much more as you possibly can, and you swing 5 at your opponent's leader. And then the cool thing is, and the reason why you would want to take first, is that even if you haven't been able to establish your searchers earlier in your game, as long as on 5 Don you have Cavendish to play out. Let's give ourselves 5 Don to make it more clear. On tap, you have Cavendish to play out. For 5 Don, obviously you will untap 2 of them. You then get to play Beige, set up your life with, let's say we set up a life with this 5 cost Bonnie. Then this last Don you would attach to your leader, you would use leader ability, bounce this Beige back into your hand, you go down -1 in life, you play this Bonnie back out, you freeze something on your opponent's board, you even get to restand a Don again, and then if you would want to attach another Don on your leader, you swing 7, or the searchers that you bounced, if you have searchers down instead of the Beige, you get to play a searcher back down and refuel your hand again. And that way, on 5 Don, you get to play out 2 5-drops, which is just a lot of tempo. And honestly, that's kind of where the curve already ends. I guess on 7 Don, the simplest thing to play is to play Law, put another 5 cost into your life, bounce a searcher back, play another 5 cost out. Let's just take a pretend 5 cost here in like one of these Bonnies or something. And then you swing with Cavendish, untap Don, replay searchers again. Like on this deck, you just constantly want to bounce searchers, replay them to refuel your hand and reshape your hand with the cards that you want. And that's it. If you don't get to play the 7 cost Law, or sometimes it's not even preferable to play the 7 cost Law, you can also play the 6 cost Law. Hopefully you still have a search on the board, you get to bounce that. And at this point, often you are down to 2 life already, so you get to play the rested Borsalino out, and then you get to heal 1 life back. Or something else you can do, let's say you play against a purple Enel, you can swing 6 with your Bonnie, then you play the Law, pick up your Bonnie to play her back down, freeze the Enel again, restand the Don of the Bonnie, you play a searcher back down, you swing with Cavendish, you restand Don, you put Don underneath your leader, you bounce the Perona, check what your life is, see if you want to play that life out, but even if not, you just bounce your Perona back and giving yourself a 1k into hand again. And you just play a completely combo-centric game from this point onwards. If you go second, the best case scenario that you can have is that on 2 Don, you play out a Kill and Killer, and then on 4 Don, you get to play out a Luffy, a Perona, a Beige to set up your life. You put a Don underneath your leader, and you already leader ability, like a Cavendish out, you restand 2 of your Don, and then you get to like play another searcher out, any of these, or like if you bounce the Luffy, you play the Luffy back down, or if you bounce the Kill and Killer, you play that back down, etc. from the Don that you restood with Cavendish. That's the high roll. If that doesn't happen and you don't have exactly those cards, then most likely what you'll be spending with your first 2 turns is establishing searchers. Maybe you try to blind hit off leader ability if you don't exactly have this beige, but sometimes you just aren't able to establish a 5 cost on 4 Don already, and then you just go to 6 Don and you play your law down and you do it. From there, you bounce that, bounce the Cavendish back, put like restand 2 Don, and then you get to play beige, switch out your life, put a Don underneath your leader, pick the beige back up, and then you play down a 5 cost, and that way you established on 6 Don, you established a 6, a 5, and a 5 on one single turn. And then again, everything after is combo-centric freestyling that you just have to figure out in the moment. Like, there's no map on how this leader is getting played from this point onwards. In terms of Mulligan, if you could customize your hand with what you would want to start with, it would look like this. You have searchers on the first 2 turns, you have your Cavendish, beige, plus 5 cost combo set up already, and you'll just go from there. On your searchers, you'll pick up 2Ks or other 5 drops, or the 6 cost law, or the 7 cost law, depending on how your game goes. Or if you're maybe playing against the Lucy, you would want to try and get a beige into your hand or something. But this is probably just the best hand you can possibly have on Mulligan. Having established what our best hand is, like our best possible hand is, we can go over some Mulligan practice. In a lot of deck builders, and this one in particular with Kari Kaizoku's deck builder, you can look at a Mulligan or a sample hand. So what I'm suggesting is I'm going to do this like 4 to 5 times now, and then I'm going to explain to you why I would specifically want to keep a hand and why I would not want to keep a hand. So hand number 1. I'm going to ignore live cards and next draw from now on, because that doesn't come into the decision making of why I would keep a hand and why not. But this is 100% of the time a keepable hand. If you look back at what I said, like the best possible hand could be, the only card that's missing is Cavendish, and we can find that off the Luffy and the Kid and Killer. If we don't find it, it's a little bit unlucky, but we would still be able to play a decent turn by playing Bonnie down and then restanding a Don and putting a Don on the leader. We wouldn't be able to set up our life with beige, but we would try to blind hit on the 5 Don turn, and hopefully we can find something in life. With the way this live in particular is looking, it would mean that we would miss, but that's not always the case. So let's go to hand number 2. Again, just a hand that I would immediately keep because I have beige and I have Cavendish. Like I said earlier, having searchers is the luxury. But going first, as long as you have Cavendish and beige on 5 Don, you are able to play Cavendish, beige down, set up another 5 drop, which we already do have in opening hand 2 with this Bonnie, and then play double 5 cost on 5 Don turn. Having the Borsa for later on in the game is really strong too. Let's go hand number 3. Again, another hand I'd be very tempted to keep. We have Cavendish and 2 searchers, so being able to find a beige is like decently likely. But even if we don't find a beige, we can find other things of these searchers. We can blind hit leader ability if we want to. But this, like on turn 1, we can play Luffy. Then on turn 2, we can play Perona. If the Perona finds us a Kid and Killer, we can just continue searching into another beige. So I think that's a good hand to keep. I'm going to do it one last time. I'm going to do it until I can see a hand that I would not want to keep. This is a hand I would not want to keep. Because even though we have a searcher in hand and we have a 5 cost, the 5 cost is not Cavendish, and the searcher doesn't allow us to find beige. So this is a hand that unless we find like specifically Kid and Killer of this Perona, and then the Kid and Killer finds us Cavendish and we top deck into beige, we just aren't able to execute our plans the way we want to. Depending on the matchup, if I would be playing against a PEnel, maybe I would keep. Well, I don't think I would ever keep this, but maybe the hand is still playable because we have a Bonnie to freeze their 6 Don turn, and we have afterwards and I Know You're Strong to make their board a little bit more comfortable to deal with. I hope that makes the Mulligan portion a bit more comprehensible. And if you are playing a deck and you aren't really certain about like, oh, when should I keep a Mulligan, when should I not? Practicing Mulligans in just a deck builder like this can be really helpful. And probably think about what do I want my first 5 cards in the absolute optimal scenario to be, and if I don't have those 5 cards, what cards do I need in the matchup that I'm currently envisioning in practice, and like can I at least play my first 2 to 3 turns. In some decks that are more late game heavy, being able to play your first few turns matters less, but in a deck like Green Yellow Law, it's very important that your first 2 to 3 turns are explosive and fast. That was all the theoretical about the deck, so let's jump into the gameplay. We'll be going over Purple PEnel matchups, Lucy matchups, and the Blue Yellow Nami matchup. And once again, if you do enjoy this little guide series that I'm trying to do at the moment, please let me know in the comments down below if you have any improvements or anything you'd like to see in these in-depth guides about decks. Please let me know. And if you want to support what I do, please consider liking and subscribing, as it helps me out a lot and it's completely free. Thank you. Alright, game 1, Law vs Purple PEnel. We take first away from PEnel, of course, because that's their preferred curve and it is our preferred curve. I don't think going second is unplayable by any means, but we do have to high roll a little bit. I kept this hand as well because we have Cavendish in hand, so the only thing that I need to find is a beige. And we have Kill and Killer to potentially attempt to find a beige or to find another searcher, to find a 1-cost beige, which in this case we find a Luffy, but sadly we do not find the beige in the first 10 cards. Here on the search I'm debating between whether I want to grab a 7-cost law or the 6-cost law, and if I didn't have a Borsalino in hand, I think it's basically always 7-cost law, but with a Borsa in hand, I think it's 6-cost law, because it just gives you more variety of things to do. The way we win this matchup with GY Law against Purple PEnel is often that we try to establish a board while locking our opponent's board with Bonnie and I Know You're Strong, and then we often take like down to like 1 or 0 in the early game, and then we swing back at our opponent over 2 to 3 turns while keeping their board frozen so that they can't lethal us. And then afterwards we go to lethal with like DMG or something like that. This turn on the Purple PEnel side is very, very annoying for us, because I was planning to just Cavendish plus blind leader ability next turn because we didn't have a beige. But he managed to remove both our searchers and little guys. So we need to find a 1-drop somewhere to even start to attempt to use leader ability next turn. So he's going to go 7 and probably another 7, and I'm going to be debating on whether I want to take both, and I probably do, and I kind of get rewarded, but at the same time not really, because I just find the beige of the 3rd life and of the top deck, which then means that we can set up our life, which is pretty good, because this Holly is a pretty big threat at the moment. So we'll put the 5-cost Bonnie into life. We'll put it on underneath our leader to use leader ability to play Bonnie out, restand 1 Don to freeze the Holly. We go 6 at face because we're not going to be able to contest these puddings at the moment anyways. This is a build where I'm still playing the 5-cost kit. I'm testing it out, but I decided that I didn't like it that much. It basically never came up during the time that I had it in the build. But yeah, so now our opponent doesn't have a big swing on this turn, so the most he can probably swing, as long as he wants to develop a Purple PEnel, is going to be 6-6, which should be, well, I guess 6-7 if he wants to use an Elthor or something, but it should be defendable. So here comes the Enel. Because we have, as long as our Bonnie doesn't get removed from the board, we have a 6-cost law to pick up the Bonnie again and lock the Enel on the upcoming turn. We also have to keep in mind though that we need to try not to die, so potentially we don't even get to do that because we need to play a Borsalino instead. He trashes an Ohm from the Enel ability, and then is probably going to leader ability any second now. Okay, he tends the Cavendish. But he doesn't have Mamaragon, it seems, to risk it. Maybe it was just to cycle in the hopes to try and find Mamaragon. But he's going 5 and 6 at us. I remember that I'm taking this life, but honestly, looking back at it, I have no idea why I take this. I should just 2k this at any point. There's no reason to take this life. Okay. Actually, I'll walk that back. I know now, I know why I didn't take the life. I didn't take the life because he has Holly on board, and being at 1 or 2 life essentially doesn't matter against the Holly, because he can just double attack, barrel through it. So I guess that's why I took the life. I'm not entirely sure whether it's correct. I think it is, because if I'm at 2 life, my Law also isn't a blocker yet, so the Holly can just double attack through it. So taking the life is good, I think. play our low end Borsellino research more, find the DMG, because DMG is sometimes quite necessary to go for lethal against Enel. I'm now debating on whether I need to keep this done up or whether I can swing 7 to push. I think I could have swung 7 to push. I am just always paranoid of like how high Enel can actually go for lethal. So I swung 6, but I think if I sat down and took the time to do the math and see how high he can like at maximum swing, then I would realize that I would not need to don up, because I have currently 5 2Ks in hand, which is just a lot. So I should have swung 7 there to get myself closer to pushing for game. But if he now decides to like go into my face, then I think I'm fine. If he decides to go for my board, then I have to debate on what I want to do. He goes 10 at the Cavendish, and I really want to keep the Cavendish alive so that I can restand on after using DMG. So I think I'm going to block with Law here. It could get like slightly punished by getting rid of my blocker and him being able to freeze my board, which is what he's going to do now. But I still think keeping the Cavendish on the board is good. But now he's going to swing with leader and with Holly at my life, so I probably have to go down to 0 again, but I have another Borsellino in hand to heal back up, which is pretty good. Puts down underneath the Holly. Goes 5 at me, which I'll counter, of course. Maybe he's gonna go with the Holly into my Bonnie. I think that's what he does. Maybe he's like pretty bricked in hand, and he could be scared of dying to like Cody Jones or something. Otherwise, I'm not sure if that swing into... Yeah, I'm not sure if that swing into my Bonnie was necessary for him. But it definitely makes it so that I can play just for another turn. I'm thinking about just playing potentially Cavendish plus Borsa here, or searching with Perona to try and find a freeze event, which I do. So I'll play I Know You're Strong plus Borsellino, heal up, and just wait a turn. And see if he can remove my board, because if he can't or can't keep the Cavendish frozen again, etc., then DMG lethal becomes a reality. So I pass the turn over, he swings with the Satori just to check his top deck, and he leaves the cards at the top. And now it's interesting to see whether he, like, how he's gonna approach to, well, try to get rid of my Cavendish. Because if he wants to rest Reiju, which is the best buddy he can use to swing into my board, then he gives up a blocker. Okay, he's gonna Divine Departure my Cavendish, so that is not really going to be defendable for me anymore. Which then also probably means that I have to play for one more turn, and he finds the Vari event to give +2 cost to his Enel, which means that finding a freeze event is still probably fine to freeze the dog and one of the 1-drops, but it's not as good anymore as being able to freeze the Reiju plus the Enel. But it might still be what I like kind of have to attempt and do. He's gonna go 8 at my Borsellino. Again, a swing where, like, if I defend this and he has a way to freeze it, I get punished. But that's the thing against Enel. Like, sometimes you just have to hedge your bets and think about, can your opponent have this or not? And or what's the likelihood of your opponent to have this card? And I've seen him just freeze 2 of my guys the turn earlier, so I'm just hoping that he doesn't have it again. And it doesn't seem like he does. So I'm gonna try to find an I Know You're Strong event again, which I did, which is perfect. So I get to play Cavendish down now, and I get to freeze, I get to take out one of the 1-drops, and I get to freeze the other 1-drop plus the Holly. And then with 2 blockers up and 2 life, I should never die. I'm gonna go leader ability to pick up the Perona to get myself an extra 1k into hand. I can even play her back down potentially to find more counter, but I can also well, keep Don up for DMG. But I can also, I'm not that scared of tapping out necessarily here fully, because I have a hidden kill on the board, so I can pop that always to restand another Don. Against an L, obviously they can L4 it at the beginning of the turn, and then I can't do that. But they don't think about that necessarily, about that, like having to do that to deny me the Don. And secondly, then they still have to have the L4. He counters with it now. So I don't know if he has another one. But we're going to freeze the board now. And then I think I'll play the Perona back down, because I just saw him use the L4, so I don't think he has another one. And essentially it didn't do anything. I didn't find a 2k or something. But it's still also a buddy that can like swing next turn and potentially go for game. I'm thinking about whether I can rest my Borsellino here and be really greedy and go 6 at him. And I decide that I can, because the Holly is frozen. And I have 2k plus 3 event and a Cavendish in hand and 2 life. So I feel pretty safe. A 9 at me, I'm gonna pop that Kitten Killer immediately now, so that I have the Don standing if I need to have it. I'm gonna take the life, then I'll see how he wants to go from here. Because also if he just swings like 10 at my Borsa, I can just 2k 1k out of it to keep the body there. And then he would have to rest his Reiju, or potentially like minus a bunch of Don and play another Shura to have another swing to swing at it. So I think he's thinking about what to do with this Anel here. He's gonna go 10 at it. I honestly think I should have defended that. I'm not sure why I let it go. Because if I don't defend it and he has a way to freeze my other Borsa, then with only 2 swings or 3 swings with this Perona after the MG, it's gonna be harder to go for game. So I really do think I should have defended it, because I wasn't, even after defending, I wouldn't have been scared of dying if he like has a Shura to rush at me with lethal or something, because I still had to Don up. So that was definitely a mistake, but hopefully, oh well, I know because I'm re-recording, but this is still lethal. But I could have defended and had a better lethal on this turn. But yeah, GG's. Definitely MVPs in this game were the 2 I Know You're Strong events. Without those, I don't think I could have survived as long. And that's kind of just how you have to play against an L. You go down to 1 life quite quickly, and then you have to try and take back the game within like 2 to 3 turns while keeping their board frozen. Okay, Law against Nami. We chose first again, of course, because Law wants to go first and Nami wants to go first. Both our previous hand and our Mulligan hand are like pretty disgustingly bad, to be honest. But we'll see how we can play. This is in my opinion probably the hardest matchup out of the current meta in Lucy NL and Blue Yellow Nami, of course. But we'll try. We found a Perona. We'd love to grab a beige here, but we can't. Maybe we'll try to grab another Cavendish or a 2k. Another Cavendish is fine, just in case that if I play the first Cavendish down and he uses it, we have another backup to play. But right now, it just looks like we're gonna have to play Cavendish next turn and blind leader ability and hope we can find something useful to play out. It's gonna go 9 at me. There's a Bonnie. I would have loved to be able to play out a Bonnie. But maybe there's something else at the top of our life that we can cheat out. So let's see. Put Tudona underneath our leader. We use leader ability. Sadly, it's only Perona, and then we swing 7 at our opponent. And yeah, it's a bit of a rough early game for us. But all the options that we have in this matchup is to just push at their life as much as we possibly can. He's swinging 7 at us now. There's really no point in defending this, I don't think. So I'm just gonna take this. And then on 7, I could play 7 Law into the 5 cost Bonnie, but I wouldn't get the Bonnie's effect. So I don't think I like that, even though playing the 7 cost Law will help us in the long run because it's a 9k body, and the reason I'm playing this card in the deck is basically just for this matchup. But I think playing 6-cost low plus Borsellino heal is a little bit safer. Against other matchups, I think I would just swing 6 here and like play some searches. I think I should swing 7. Maybe I'm deciding to just search, but I think I should swing 7 at them. I don't have any 2Ks in hand, so that's a bit like scary. So maybe I could search. It's a bit of a 50-50. I don't even know what I'm going for anymore. I think I should swing 7. Yeah, my gut instinct initially was the same one as I had while I was playing this game. Because if we play a slow game, we are just not winning against Nami, because they can just out-sustain, out-value, out-heal us like in the long run. So whenever we can get cards out of their hand, we should try and get cards out of their hand. We find another Borsellino, which is very good for us. We have 2 of them in hand now, so we can play a little slower. And it seems like they whiffed on their like 7-don turn, which is massive. Because then they don't get to play Robin here or something, which would have been quite annoying. We find Perona to try and find another 6-cost lure, which we did. So we will do that again. And we'll just try to push 7s all around here. I can't think about potentially swinging to the Nami. I'm not sure if I'm going to. I don't think I will. I'm just going to try to like keep the Nami frozen alongside the Kikunojo next turn, I think, because I have double I know you're strong in hand. So I should just swing 6 here. 7 here, sorry. Again, we don't have 2Ks in hand, which is like, it's just annoying. It's unfortunate overall. I mean, I guess it's my own fault in a way, because I grabbed the second Cavendish instead of grabbing the 2k X-Drake on that first Perona search. But I do think grabbing the Cavendish is better because of what I said earlier with the Zeus. He plays a Newgate, a card that we can't deal with at all in this deck. And I think I'm just going to have to take down to 0. And then block 1k one of them, and then hard block the 8. And then on my turn I will play Borsellino plus freezing the Nami and the Kiku, while swinging 7s all around again with Cavendish and the rest of my blockers here. Because I don't need to keep blockers up at the moment if he only has Newgate and the leader to swing with. Well, apart from the Borsellino that I played this turn, of course. And here I don't want to swing another 7 with the Borsa, because if he reads my play properly, then he's just going to free block the swing from the Newgate. So I might as well keep it standing. But we have chipped decently well at their hand, so I'm happy about that. We just need to probably find a DMG or something to try and push through this blocker later on in the game, because 5-cost Bonnie, which we don't have in hand right now, it can push through a lot of life, but it can push and block a lot of things, a lot of blockers from not blocking, but Newgate is a bit too big. We blocked here preemptively as well to not go down to 0, because they can play the 3-cost Sanji, and if they would have played 3-cost Sanji to make Newgate unblockable, we would have been very sad. I think what I have to do is lock the board again in the Kiku and the Nami. And I think I will replay a Borsa, the Borsa with the Law. That's why I'm swinging with it first. Yeah, we play Law, pick up the Borsa, replay it, swing with Cavendish, restand on, freeze the Kiku and the Nami, and then hopefully the turn after we can go for it. I wonder whether I should try and play a Perona in between this turn, like before playing the 6-cost Law, because then I could find a DMG, and I think I need to find a DMG essentially. If I play this Law now for 6, I'll have 3 Don left. I put 1 Don on Cavendish, 2 Don left, swing with Cavendish, 4 Don left, So depending on how he reads my play, I can either swing with leader or with the 6 cost 2 times again. He's taking a while here. Okay, he chose to take that life. Then I'll do what I just said. I play the law, bounce the Borsa, play the Borsa back down, swing 7 with Cavendish. And then... Oh, I'm swinging another 6 with law. That is honestly greedy, again, because if he reads my play... I mean, it's not necessarily greedy, because even if he reads my play and he blocks with Newgate, it's not like it changes anything. I'm not dead anyways, so I think the 6 is good. I don't know. I do think I should have searched with Perona though for DMG. And I think I'm just taking my life here to fish for DMG. Maybe it's like, maybe it's in my life because I'm not going to survive another turn anyways. And if I don't find DMG, maybe he's tempted to swing 12 with the Newgate. And then at least one blocker is gone. There's the Bonnie that I was talking about, but that can't get around around Newgate. So I'm going to start with a 7 here, I think. And then I'll search for DMG. And luckily he also doesn't take the free block. And there it is. It was 1 card down. But this is still far from guaranteed lethal. I'm just going to have to chip 7s here and 1 9 and hope that's enough. If his entire hand is counter, then he has it. And he's giving me a bunch of 2Ks, so I'm scared that his entire hand is 2Ks. But luckily for me, he only has 1 2K left. And the last card in his hand is a brick. So we got there. It was really close. And I think whenever you play against Nami and you manage to win the games, they are always going to be close. And I hope during this game you can see that like the best way to approach this matchup is to just push into their life as much as possible. That being said, they obviously missed their 8 on turn. They didn't play a Moria or a 7 cost Robin, so that helped us out a lot. And I'm not sure if we would have been able to push through the game. I mean, if you would have played Robin, then the Robin would have essentially been Kiku in this game. And the Kiku was frozen the entire time, so the Robin could have been frozen the entire time. The only difference that it would have made is that he would have had 1 more life, which did make a lot of difference because we won exactly by 1k. Law versus Lucy. This is honestly the matchup out of all 3 that I've been enjoying the most, because it feels like there's a lot of nuance in the matchup. We as the Law have to like find a way to find removal protection in the early game so that we don't get we don't get all our board removed with like barrier pistol and so on before we can try to establish anything. And the way the game usually plays out is that with GY Law, we try to just push the tempo and try to overwhelm them, get them to 0 and win the game through DMG or Hody Jones, depending on what you play. While in the early game, we also have to establish a beige, or if you play the version with the 2k Bonnie, establish the Bonnie so that, like I just said, our board doesn't get removed. In this specific game, spoiler alert, I'm going to lose this game. But I'm showing to you guys it because I definitely should not have lost this game, and I want to point out that there are sometimes very micro decisions on this leader specifically, or in games in general, that can feel like a game should have been winnable, but in hindsight you don't know exactly what went wrong, but then if you review a game you can figure it out. Here's a really good example, by the way, of when this 5 cost Bonnie, the promo Bonnie, is really strong. If we leave this Cavendish on board, it's just going to accumulate value over and over and over again every single turn, unless we find a way to remove it. And putting it into life, yes, we give them an extra life, but it's still very strong. And now they didn't have another Cavendish to play or anything, and we did have the beige on the board, which means that we countered essentially their only play that they had. Would it have been better to have the 2k Bonnie here in this scenario? Maybe, because we would have taken a life and would still have the Cavendish on board to pressure. But I don't know. I personally just kind of prefer the beige. Here we're going to. It's a bit of an awkward turn because I want to play 6 cost Law, but I can't play 6 cost Law and then lead the ability to get the Cavendish out because I don't have enough done for it. because I mean I have 6 Don only available to me, and if I play the Law first, then I don't have Don to put underneath my leader to get Cavendish out to restand. So we have to bounce the Cavendish back out first, so that we only get to restand 1 Don. So but in that way we can still play out the 6-cost Law. So we re-establish our board completely. We are 4 characters wide. We swing at them. They are probably going to play the Sabo now, if they find it, of course. But I hope that they do. Yeah, they find their Sabo. They only have the double attack and not the flame, the Fire Fist. And he's gonna go 9 at me. I could potentially take this, or I just take the block, and I decide on the block. We top deck this Bonnie. This Bonnie is very good in this turn because we get to lock the Saba out of blocking and also out of attacking us the next turn. It's just a matter of how exactly we want to play it out. Play Searcher, grab the 2k. I think I'm doing this wrong. What I should have probably done is not hard play this Bonnie, but play the beige 2k over the Bonnie and then cheat the Bonnie out of life. And then we would have had a lot more Don to swing with. I mean, this is still fine. It's just giving up a little bit of tempo. And here's another mistake that we made. Barrier Pistol is one of those cards that, yes, are annoying out of trigger, but we can play around it. If we would have put a Don, our 3 Don, underneath each of these characters of Borsellino, Law, and Bonnie, then he couldn't have. Then all these characters would have been effectively 7k, and the Barrier Pistol would not have bottom decked one of them. It would have bottom decked the Bonnie because I wouldn't have put a Don underneath the Bonnie, but it wouldn't have bottom decked one of our attackers, which is what matters. So I get punished for misplaying pretty badly here. He's giving me a 2k, 1k. Swing another 7. And then I'll swing another 7. Could make this an 8, but I'll swing another 7, and that's enough. And I'll play a Perona down because I'm trying to find the DMG to close out the game. Then I'll pass. And we're in a very good spot here. So we shouldn't lose. But we will, and you'll see why. He has Sabo plus Fire Fist. He's gonna go remove the Cavendish. That was not defendable for me. And then he's going 9 at the Borsa. I definitely should defend this. But this is where my mistake is. I ditched the beige. And I definitely should not have ditched the beige. Because earlier when I played the Bonnie down. I'm gonna go back. I saw that I have DMG in my life. Which means that I have a DMG available to me, if I want to. If I just want to take my life to grab this DMG, I can, as long as I don't give up on the beige. But, because I don't know, I just didn't think of that in that moment, I decided to counter 2k with beige and X-Drake when I should have just countered both the X-Drakes. And then next turn, I grab beige out of my life, and I just DMG 2 of his blockers and I go for lethal. But now I'm stuck here, and in a way my only option is just for him to swing at me and give me the DMG, or to try and find another one with Perona. So we're just in an awkward spot. With Law it's not possible to grab the DMG out of life in any other way. So we're just gonna try and play the game normally. We pick up the Bonnie back up again so that we can freeze the Sabo again. And then we'll try to push towards default as best as we can. But we've made it so awkward for ourselves by ditching this beige, which was just a lapse of judgment and should have never happened. There was never a reason to keep the X-Drake over the 2k beige. So we're swing 6. We try to still bait out blockers and everything. I probably want to establish a Cavendish on this turn. Potentially Bonnie, just a cycle. Actually, in hindsight, I also think the Bonnie would have been better. I feel like I'm making a lot of mistakes this game. I'm swing 7. And I'll pass. And yeah, now if he's able to just keep on playing Sabos and Rebecca's down to have an entire wall of blockers and he's never swinging into my life to give me the DMG, then we're in trouble. And we're gonna slowly lose the game. He has another Sabo plus Fire Fist. It's like really awkward to defend all of this. I'm gonna defend this one because if I defend this, then at least he might swing with the Sabo and then there's a better way to go for lethal with one of the blockers rested. We find and I know you're strong, so maybe if he rests, like if he blocks with both of the Sabos, I can find a window to freeze both Sabos and then go for it the turn after. But all of this just could have been avoided if we would have just kept the base in hand and would have grabbed the MG out of our life. Even if we would have just played the Bonnie out of life the turn before and not hard played it, we would have had the DMG in hand. But because we didn't do it, yeah, he just keeps blocking. It's getting harder and harder to get through it. Once again, my hope is kind of to make him block with 2 Sabos and keep them frozen. I also want to, this is also another mistake that I'm making. I think picking up this law here is bad. I want to reuse Don to restand with Cavendish, but I just don't think it's necessary in this spot to do it. And I should have definitely just kept the character on the board. So I'm hoping while you guys are watching this, like it's probably a bit cringe to watch me do what I'm doing, but what I'm doing here is just because I'm trying to desperately find a way out of the spot that I'm in because I can feel myself slowly losing, and I'm making more mistakes because I'm making suboptimal plays to try and get myself out of a situation that I didn't have to be in the first place. And often when we lose games in this game, it can be because of things like that, where one single mistake just snowballs throughout the entire game and we just can never manage to like find a handle on the game again. So he plays another Rebecca. He grabs a Fire Fist. Probably gonna use that to reduce my Cavendish. He actually ditches 2 cards to kill it. I think they were probably 2 breaks, and now he's going 8. Oh, actually no, he ditches another card. He goes 9 at the Bonnie because he needs that Bonnie to be gone, because otherwise I would be able to go for lethal with 3 characters on the board. But he just keeps finding a way to keep himself alive, and yeah, it is just rough to deal with. The only chance I have here really is to like play double blocker and hope he doesn't have a Roger and then try to go for it the turn after. And him just never swing into my life and keep swinging to my board so that I don't get the DMG was just, yeah, painful. Maybe there was a window where I could have not swung with my board at all to force him to go yeah, into my life, but I don't know. I think I just lost the whole game by not picking up by countering with the base so that I can't pick up the DMG. We cycle here, we get to keep a Don up essentially, so that if the DMG comes out of our life, maybe it can help us win. Okay, I do another mistake, I guess. I just put the Don onto my leader. I don't know why I would put the Don onto my leader. Would that change anything? Would go 7 here. Go 6 here. I would double 1k this. Then there's a 9 coming out my face. I have DMG. Oh my god, I actually would have lived if I didn't attach a Don. No, wait. Right? If I didn't attach a Don, sorry. Because I bounced the Warsaw back into my hand, right? So I would have 1 less 1k in my hand. So I would only have 2 1ks in hand right now. So if he then swings, he plays Roger and then he swings 6, I can give double 1k, that Warsaw would be on the board. Then I find DMG. There, counter. So now I would have 0 counter in hand. I take the 9, I have DMG. I would take this. I would not have the counter. So even if I kept the Don up, I would have lost still. But I should have kept the Don up instead of bouncing the Bulls up. I guess I was thinking maybe he doesn't have Roger and he's just gonna like not do anything for the turn. And then I get to heal myself back up. But yeah, just overall, a lot of little mistakes. The biggest one was the fact that I countered with the beige. But this was a super winnable game. I was in a very good spot in the early game. And I just made misplay after misplay after misplay. And screwed myself over without properly realizing it in the moment why I lost. But then after reviewing the game, I understood specifically where I messed up. And in the future, if I come across a similar situation, I can adjust. And that's why reviewing games is important. Alright, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this more in-depth guide for Green Yellow Law. If you have any criticisms or improvements of what I could do better or segments to include during guides like these, please let me know in the comments. And besides that, I just wish you a good rest of your day and I'll see you guys in 2 days.